Beautiful. Welcome, you guys. Thank you so very much for joining me on another episode of the Everyday Hero Show, where I bring to you someone in your life or someone in my life that brings us joy, happiness, and good things, but does not get the credit that they deserve. Today, we have a special guest. She has an Instagram page that when I flip through, when I hit that follow button, I mean, sunshine through my bones, through my body, good vibes all around from start to finish. She does something that I don't think us millennials can handle to do. All right. She lives in a mobile home, an RV. I'm going to get the details because I don't know which is which, but she lives in a house that travels the goddamn country and maybe the world. I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe a few Canada, Mexico stops here and there. Anyways, the shining star that we have on the show today is Hailey, and you guys can find her on her Instagram at Tiny Home Hailey, Tiny Home Hailey.
Yeah,
at Tiny Home Hailey on Instagram. Please go check it out. But Hailey, thank you so very much for joining me. I really do appreciate this.
thank you for having me.
Of course. So Hailey, so let's start from the origin, okay? So before we talk about the house that's running around the country, I do want to know, who are you? And okay, so let's just start with, who are you and where you from originally? Where's home base?
All right, home base for me. I was born and raised just outside of Chicago. Lived there pretty much my whole life, 25 years. And then I moved to Tucson, Arizona, and I'll never move back to the Midwest. I freaking love living in Arizona. That's my home base.
Okay.
But my home actually travels, so not currently there.
So okay, all right. So explain that to me for first and foremost. So when you say your home base is Tucson, Arizona, I want to know, does that mean your family's there, like brother, sister, mom, dad, or does that mean that's where like you get your mail sent when you have bills?
All of my family is back in Illinois, but my fiance's family and his ginormous family of like 50 people in his immediate family, they all live in Tucson. Our mail gets sent to Tucson, unless if we get mail sent to the park, but like our physical mail gets sent to Tucson. But our home is not in Tucson.
Okay, so first of all, I have to say congratulations, because I friended Hailey on Facebook the other day, and I was scrolling through her Facebook because I like to find them crazy questions, try to find that dirt from years and years ago. But I did see that you guys got married most recently. Tell me a little bit about that. How did that happen? I saw the pics. God damn it, he's a good man. What's his name?
His name is Michael. We're not
Michael.
married yet, but we're getting married on March 21st, 2020. He proposed back in September in Chicago, but then we did our engagement pictures, which is probably what you saw, and that was done on Mount Lemmon in Tucson back in May. He's amazing. He's like the most wonderful man on the planet, and he's a ginger, and I'm obsessed with gingers.
Oh, I mean, we all got our types, right? We all got our types. Well, good for you. I'm happy that that the situation looks good, right? So the pictures look good, the proposal looks good. I think that's great. But that's where I want to get into this, okay? So I don't want to say whose idea was it, but how, for someone to be doing this on their own and to meet someone on the road and be like, all right, we can be a couple and share an RV, that's something I understand. I don't understand two people meeting up, falling in love, and then one person saying, let's live on the road, and the other person saying, okay. That is something that divorce break, I don't know what it is, but my boo-boo better not ask questions like, that's crazy. Whose idea was it, and how did that come to be?
I want to say Michael's the one who initially approached me with it. When I was living in Tucson, which is where him and I met, he's been working, to preface this, he's a corporate bankruptcy director, so his job is doing like major corporations, like liquidations, asset transfers, restructuring, you name it, that's him. So like Toys R Us, things like that, like he was on those bankruptcy projects, like liquidating them, which is why he gets placed all over the country. And me, I was a special education teacher in Tucson, so cumulatively he's only home like a month, maybe 2 months out of the entire year, and it's not all at one time. So for having a relationship, like I mean, him and I were fine by all means, like totally fine. But like, if we were to like think like long term getting married, like that's really hard to make a marriage work if you are in two separate time zones, like 98% of the year. So I decided to leave my special education job and travel full time on the road with him and his job.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Can I just say that's you get? I don't know if you gave up a lot, but that for me, all I'm saying is for someone to expect that for me, I mean, you have to be like my kidney donor. I don't know who I would do that kind of traveling for. So good for you. Good for you for allowing this process to be right. But before we get to your situation, I want you to give me some definitions here because I was trying to do some research because I want to start at a base level, but I'm sorry I'm not there yet. What is your definition of a tiny home? And does a tiny home need to be mobile? And what's the difference between an RV and a mobile home? And like just all of that stuff. If whatever you know, please help me and the people.
So a tiny home doesn't necessarily have to be one that travels per se. A tiny home could be like a lot of people live in those container homes, like literally like what you see on a train, those container storage boxes. Some people turn those into homes. That's a tiny home. A tiny home could be a van. Like there's a lot of van lifers out there that literally live in like a Sprinter van. Then you have what's called a Class C, which is kind of like those typical ones that you see like in movies where you like rent the RV and go on a vacation. They're not huge, but they're enough to sleep in and travel in for the weekend. And then you have what we have is a fifth wheel. So we pull it on the back of our vehicle, and ours is about 37 foot long. And it's only about 200 square feet less than my one bedroom apartment was in Tucson. So in terms of like square footage, it's really not that much smaller than my apartment was. And then there's also what's called a Class A, which is a motorhome, which is the one that you physically drive. And those are the big, long ones that you see. So that's the difference.
Okay. And remind me, what's the name of the one that you have?
We have a fifth wheel.
You have the fifth wheel. Okay. And is that something, was that the goal, or are you working up to something? Or is that what you wanted? Was that the plan, or is that just something in between?
Yep, that's what we wanted. We wanted a fifth wheel, one that you pull on the back of the truck and it stays stationary once you remove it from your vehicle. That way we can then take our vehicle and go exploring the area that we're in. We've talked about maybe getting a Class A, which is the type that you drive, but I don't know. I mean,
yeah, no. So I don't know.
Them.
Of course. And like right when you were describing that, I feel like you have kind of the best of both worlds. I don't know which one gives you the most space. What would you say is the easiest tiny home to travel with and has the most space? Or are they all different?
Well, they're all different, but in terms of physical space, a fifth wheel and a Class A motorhome are going to give you the most. And ours isn't even as big as you can go. There's some that are literally 60 feet long, which is huge. They're huge. And then ours like has a ton of underbelly storage, so it's not like we're depriving ourselves. I mean, we're definitely living minimally compared to like owning a sticks and bricks home, but there's still a lot of storage space. Like our underneath storage, he has like all his tools and God knows what to tinker with underneath here.
So on my Instagram, I love doing like these like quote pictures, right? And I like to steal stuff from my everyday heroes. And I've never once heard someone say a sticks and bricks home. Yeah. By the way, it's just I want you to know this and want the world to know this. I might steal that from you. So you might see that.
Create that term though, but you can go ahead and use it.
Wait, did you actually? I love that term because I've never heard it before.
I didn't create it, no.
Oh, I was gonna say that's amazing. Okay, you did not create it. Okay, well I love it. I love that term. I love that term. Okay, all right. So that's so you guys have the fifth wheel, right? So in your current situation, right, with you guys both traveling. Obviously, you have come to terms with the situation you're living in with the size of the fifth wheel, right? But what is it that is the hardest thing to deal with? Is it the going to the bathroom? Is it showering? Is it like, what is it that is the hardest for you specifically to deal with when it comes to living in a tiny home on wheels, traveling the country 24/7?
In terms of the physical home, or just like my feelings, like about living?
Let's do both. Let me give you the time, please. Let me know, how are you feeling though. I want to know the negative, because I love talking about the positive at the end. So let's talk about the negative now. I'm going to dig deep. I want to know, what is the issues that you find you like clash with the most, physically, emotionally, spiritually, any of it, socially, whatever.
So for me, I guess like emotionally, because we're on the road pretty much 24/7, we're not home with our families that often, which kind of sucks. I mean, yes, we go home for like Christmas and major holidays and things like that. But in terms of just like, oh, it's like my mom's birthday today. Like, I'm not in Chicago for her birthday to celebrate it. We're in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I would say
Wait, do you really mean it's today?
No, her birthday was on the 29th. So
well, happy birthday to Mama Tiny Home Hailey. Yeah.
So for stuff like that, or like for Michael's family, because his family is massive and they do like so much together. Like, picture your regular family that does like literally everything together, and then times it by 50. His family does literally everything together. So for him, it's hard being away from home, just because they do so much, and because there's so many like little kids in his family, and like just watching them grow up and things like that. In terms of the actual physical tiny home, honestly, it's really not bad, like at all. But for me, I would say the hardest part is the unreliable Wi-Fi is one, just because like for online teaching and things like that, like when I want to get back into teaching online again, it's hard when, I mean, yes, we have like this little jetpack, which is like how I'm talking to you through internet, but when you're like live streaming like this, it uses a lot of data. So if I wanted to be teaching online at least 5 days a week, like it would be crazy. I'd be out of data in like 3 days. And it's always unreliable Wi-Fi at the parks. Like, we've been to some parks that have like the most amazing Wi-Fi ever. Like, it never is laggy or anything. And then we're at a park like this where like I can hardly get it to connect. So that, and then the kitchen area, I really miss having a lot of counter space to cook.
Are you a cook? Is that something you do?
I do cook. I wouldn't say I'm like an avid cooker like my mother is, but I definitely like to dabble around in the kitchen. I make some good food, so
good for you.
I just got to get creative with it, or like prep things in stages ahead of time, just because of the lack of counter space. But other than that, like I can still functionally cook in the oven and on the stove and things like that.
Okay, so let's talk about your upbringing, like the upbringing, right? So when you were little, did you travel at all, or was it always Chicago? Was it always Illinois? And do you have siblings at home? And lastly, how do your parents feel about you living this traveling tiny home lifestyle?
My parents are on board with it. I mean, my mom was like, go for it. Like, she thinks it's so cool that we're doing this. I mean, obviously at first she was like, oh, like you're gonna like leave your job like after only being out of college for a few years. But I mean, they love Michael, so they knew that like we would be okay, like financially. And honestly, financially, like we're saving a ton of money doing tiny home, but I'll talk about that in a minute. I have 2 brothers back home and then a little sister. My parents are divorced, so the sister lives with my dad, and then my brother is older and lives on his own, and then my other brother's in high school and lives with my mom. And then, what was your other question?
Yeah, so I want to know like your upbringing. Did you travel a lot as a little kid, or was it all Chicago? And like, yeah, go ahead, answer those questions.
Yeah, we did travel a ton. So my family on my father's side of the family, they own a sod farming business, like my grandfather and father and aunts and uncles and stuff.
Wait, what is it? I'm sorry. A what farming?
A sod farm.
What is that? I've what?
Like grass, like for people's homes and companies.
Oh, are you serious? Like your parent, your dad makes fake grass or is it like real grass that they just? Oh, excuse me, no disrespect.
No, like real grass. So like like where the Chicago Bears play, like they've sodded, like put sod on their field before, things like that. And recently they're starting a hemp farm on the family's property too. So there's also that. Going to be doing some hemp, like the CBD route and things like that. But we traveled a lot as a kid because there's what's called the TPI conventions, which is part of like the sod industry. So winter, there was always a convention somewhere in the world. And in summer, there was always a convention somewhere in the world. So I've been very blessed to have gone many places throughout the U.S. as a child, and even internationally, places like Australia and stuff like that too, Mexico.
So what I thought I was going to find out by asking you your history is I wanted to know if it was like in your blood to travel or if it's something that you did because of the people that were in your life. But still, it sounds like a very similar situation where when you were a kid, you traveled because your dad's job, right? And now as an adult, you're traveling because your husband would be out of the house 90% of the time. Is traveling something that you actually love to do, or are you just a kind human being that would do so much for the people in your life?
Both.
Well, good for you.
Both. Like I would do anything for Michael, which is like, of course, yeah, I loved my students. And of course it wasn't like an easy decision to be like, yeah, it's not like I hated my job or something. I loved my job, loved my students. So yeah, that part was hard, like leaving that. But I mean, it's not like teaching ever goes out of style. Like kids are always going to be in school. So like if we ever decide to stop tiny homing one day and move back to Tucson or wherever, like I can always go back to teaching in like the educational, like classroom to student setting. So.
And then before we jump over to the positive stuff, let's talk about when do you already have set plans of like, if this happens, we need to stop traveling? Like if we, what's it called? If we have a kid or after we get married or actually, and this is something I wanted to bring up too. I'm sorry about I think it's Pepper, your cat. Yeah, I'm sorry about Pepper, but it sounds like you guys got like a Furrnando.
Yeah, we've had Furrnando for a couple years. Furrnando will be 3 next month. Pepper was our baby that we got back in December, but yeah, we had to put her down due to some unforeseen circumstances from her spay surgery.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But like I said, are there any set plans in the near future where you're like, if this happens, we need to stop tiny home traveling, or are you open to like doing this for life?
We are open to doing it for life. We haven't decided yet if we're going to have children or not. Like some days we like, yes, like we're definitely going to like have kids and everything like that. But then like other times I'm just like, I don't know, like I'm really content like being that awesome aunt to everyone else's kids. You know what I mean?
Hailey, I have to say this, right? Like, so I was so excited to talk to you because I thought you were like the total opposite of every millennial, but you have so many millennial tendencies. Like, I'm so proud, like I'm happy, right? Because like, I feel like you were doing something so cool, so out there that you were like untouchable, but like you're a normal human being. You're not crazy. Like you have legit plans and goals, and you're not a psycho. I need like the adrenaline of traveling every what I'm trying to say is I'm happy. I'm really happy that it's something that anyone can do, right? So let's talk about that, right? So okay, so that's good. So it sounds to me like you are very happy in the current situation, right? So let's talk about the positives, because this is, I mean, you're an everyday hero. You're doing some cool shit, and this is the reason I have you on is because, based on your Instagram, you live in your best life, girl. God damn it. It's great to see. It really is great to see when someone is doing something super different and is very happy doing it. So I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to hear it. I'm all of the above, right? So your favorite things. Now let's talk about your favorite things about traveling so much. Your favorite things about all of this.
Obviously my number one thing is like we can go literally anywhere and our home is with us. So like before Michael was traveling, and even when I would go see him, he was staying in a hotel, literally living out of his suitcase, which that gets old after a little while. You know what I mean? Like only living,
definitely.
3 feet of cubicle and then you're in a hotel room. Where here, like, we can have like our pets with us. We can have literally all of our clothes with us. I can, like, you've seen the pictures, I can have like cute decor and make it feel like a home, even though the home goes with us no matter where we are.
Yes.
So for me, that was like a huge factor in terms of like being happy while traveling on the road, because obviously we're not with our friends and our family all the time. So it's like, how do I stay busy and stay happy? Like, I love just having like my home. Like, we can go out and do like some crazy hiking, hot springs, whatever, you name it, during the day, but then we come back to our actual home, not just some foreign place that, yeah, we're staying here right now, but it's not our space.
Yeah, that's really, I think that is probably like the coolest thing ever. And I feel like this, you're living like the 21st century version of like a nomad, right? Because it is super cool, but it is the 21st century. And how are you living without Wi-Fi is my question, right? Like, I mean, like that is probably the biggest hurdle for anyone in the 21st century, because you need the internet to be a functional human being. But with that being said, I want to know, you said you wanted to mention the money thing, right? And I didn't know, right? I did very little, minimal research when it came to this. And a lot of places are saying, based on the RV you get or the tiny home you get, that can be either saving or losing money. Because as we know, if you buy a home, it appreciates versus a tiny home or an RV where it depreciates, right? So are you looking at money saving in the now, long term? How, and obviously I don't need to know the details like the actual numbers, but just generally, is this something that you guys have to save for, or are you spending a whole lot of extra cash living this lifestyle?
No, we're saving a ton of money. So for us, Michael, and not that I wasn't, but Michael is extremely money savvy, and he's brought that into our relationship and taught me. And I wasn't like terrible before or anything, but now I'm even more money conscious than I was. For us, when we bought our fifth wheel, we wanted a used one, not too used. Like, we only wanted it like 2 or 3 years old, where the people who originally purchased it took that initial depreciation hit, not us. So that was like a huge factor for us, because we paid half of what this normally would cost in terms of like initial purchase price, and we just paid it in cash. That was a big thing for us, so that we don't have to finance or anything like that. We don't like debt. The plan that we follow would be Dave Ramsey, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, we follow his guidelines and plans, a little bit tweaked, but for the most part, we follow like his guide in terms of like saving money. And then in terms of like the parks that we stay at, I mean, our RV is paid for, so it's not like we're financed or having that payment every single month. So the only payments that we have in no matter where we are the site for the RV, like where we actually park and hook up at. So like right now here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, we paid for 14 days because that's how long we'll be here. And then the electric and water and sewer and everything is included in that price already. So for us, and I'll just give you the numbers for Santa Fe. Santa Fe is like a destination area, so it's a little bit more expensive than some places, but to me, it's still not that bad. So for the 2 weeks, we're paying like $360 for everything all included.
That's awesome.
But when you even if you were to double that and make it like a month, and the month here is cheaper, so the month is like 500 something for like the whole month here. That's cheaper than rent pretty much anywhere.
Literally anywhere. I mean,
it's cheaper than rent anywhere.
Yeah. if you told me that you could pay that for rent in Chicago, I'd be like, girl, tell me where, when, and how. Because you're right.
Yeah.
Like, and especially because I'm a city guy. So any major city in the U.S., you're not going to pay that rent. You're going to be living under someone's double bunked bed, right? I mean, that's the only option you would have. So that's super legit, right? So now I want to get into a little bit of the personal situation, right? Because I'm not married. I don't have a fiance. No one has proposed to me yet, right? but what do you guys do when you need space? Because God damn it, I mean, I've traveled with someone across the country once, And after the third day of driving with homeboy, I was like, we better stop somewhere, right? Because I can't see you. I don't want to look at, I don't even want to think about you. So how do you guys deal with the fact that everywhere you go, it's just you two? You don't have your mom, your family, your friends, your aunt, whoever to go visit and get that space. How do you deal with that? And I know you guys are newly engaged and the honeymoon phase is nice and hot,
But
but you
everyone
must get
has their ups and downs. Like, it's not like
exactly.
I mean, yes, like I love him like with my whole life, but we still have like arguments, like everyone. And if someone tells you, "Oh, we never argue," they're lying. Like
Lies.
everyone, we don't have bad arguments by any means, but like when we argue, I would say for space wise, like there's a lot of days that I'll even go to work with Michael because he can get like extra help and even like pay me to go to work with him. So there's also that like generated income there. So, but I don't go with him every day. Like I'm not with him today. I wasn't with him yesterday or the day before. So I guess in terms of like space, like we get time apart from one another. Like he's at work right now, time apart from me, and I do my own thing. If he's like home and we just need like a moment to cool down, like I mean, we have like the whole like outside patio area you can go chill or be like, I'm just going to like run to the store really quick and, you know, like go run to Walmart and get some errands that I needed to get done anyway. But I mean, the arguments are very few and far between and we're big communicators. So usually we work through it. But even when you just need a moment, I would say that that's pretty typical. Just be like, I'm just going to like go run to the store. Or a lot of times, like if we do have an argument or something, he'll be like, I'm just gonna like run out really quick, and he'll just like run out. And like I said, it's never like a bad argument, but he'll like come back with ice cream and be like, I'm sorry that we like argued. Like he just ran to the store to go get ice cream or Italian ice or whatever. So
Sounds like a good man. Sounds like a good man. You found a good one. Good for you, Hailey. Okay. So then let's talk about the family and situation. I know you said it sucks that you can't see them, right? But how often, do you make it? Like, how often are you going back home? How often is Michael going back home? How often are you guys doing that? And when you guys do that, do you have to drive back home, or is there an option to fly, or just not move the trailer? Like your whole rig situation?
90% of the time we're driving it back home. So Michael, for his job, like when he's on a project, then we're in whatever that destination is, wherever the store is that he's shutting down. And then he gets, not always, like the longest he's ever consecutively never gone home and been on the road is 17 months straight, which is a long time.
Yeah.
Other than Christmas and like any other major holiday, he gets to go home for like a day or two, but on the road otherwise. Where like last year he had 6 months off straight where we were just in Tucson getting to be home and being with family and stuff. So I mean it just depends upon the economy and what's going on and how much time he gets off. But typically we'll either take our RV back to Tucson in between the projects. Most of the time he only gets like a month or two, if that. Maybe even a couple weeks break in between where we go home back to Tucson or to Chicago to see my family.
Respect. I like it. At least you guys have that sorted out, right? So, okay, let's talk about the actual traveling now, right? The actual traveling. So I find it when I'm traveling, and I don't even do much of it. Like I go maybe 2-3 times a year, right? But do you find it like really hard to eat healthy on the road? Because I feel like when I'm on the road, it is so easy for me to just be, you know what, let me grab a Snickers, let me get some McDonald's. It's on the road, it's a drive-through. I would be the worst human being when it comes to health on the road.
On the actual travel days, yeah, it can be more difficult because typically, like, we don't want to just like stop and then come in. We can stop on the road and actually come in our RV and cook a meal like while we're like en route to somewhere, but typically we don't want to like stop and do that, so we just grab something fast and then get back on the highway. So I guess on travel days it's hard, but the most that we've ever spent like traveling is like 2 days at a time, unless if we were going literally from like Arizona all the way to the East Coast, then we're probably looking at like 3 or 4 days. But once we're parked and at our RV spot wherever we are in the country, I cook, so we're eating 90% of our meals at home. I mean, my fiance, like, sometimes he'll be like, no, like, I just want to, like, grab a quick breakfast out or something. So he's a fast food king. Like, oh, my God, the kid eats so much fast food. It's unreal. But
He's my kind of guy. I think it's a man's thing. I really do. I don't know. I love my fast food. I like the way you think, Michael. I like the way you think.
yeah, so he eats he'll eat breakfast out, but in terms of lunches, I would say 50-50 for him to eat out or eat at home, but dinners are pretty much always at home unless it's a date night.
Good for you. Good for you guys. And then let's talk about the pets. So do you think having a dog is ever a possibility, or is it only cats? And are you even a dog person?
I'm more of a cat person, but I am a dog person. We've actually been discussing since we lost Pepper, do we want to go the route of getting a second cat pal for Furrnando, or do we want to get a dog? So we're still discussing that. And if we did get a dog, it would be what he likes to call a pocket dog. It wouldn't he really wants a big dog, but when you're tiny living, to me, unless if I literally lived outside walking the dog around the RV park all day long, it would be unfair to have a giant Bernese Mountain Dog or something living
it wouldn't make sense. Yeah.
Square feet. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be fair to the dog. So if we got one, it would be about the same size as my cat.
You'd have two cats, one that barked though, right? I want you to help the people out there, right? Because I don't know if it is a younger generation thing, or if it is just a new wave of just a fad, but these tiny homes are becoming a thing, right? A lot of people are looking at this stuff, and that's a huge reason as to why we wanted to have you on, because it is it's a huge wave of people trying to get tiny homes. And yes, I think a huge part of it is because the housing market is through the roof, but also I think people nowadays are obsessed with the experience versus I want a mansion and have nice cars. I want to live a great life and have experiences in different places and do cool things. So if someone were to start this tiny home process, all right, or this mobile home process, what are the big advice, tips, hints, whatever you can give them so it's a smooth sailing, a smooth ride over to switching?
Number one would just be being financially smart, because although we are savvy about it, there is a way that it can be extremely expensive, and depending upon where you live and where you want to go. If you want to spend your whole time in California, New York, Washington, Florida, the more expensive areas, in terms when we were in California, that was $860 a week. So you're not being financially savvy depending upon where you want to go. I'm not saying don't go to those places. But I would say being financially savvy, doing your research. There are a lot of bad manufacturers for RVs or even just tiny homes in general out there that they may look gorgeous, but are they made with cheap materials? What was the labor that was put into them? Because you don't want to drop, let's just say $50,000 on a fifth wheel or a travel trailer mobile home, you know what I mean? And have it be so cheaply made. And if you're not able to buy it in cash and you are financing it and you buy a poorly made rig, and then you're going to be underwater and you have all these problems that need to be fixed, you know what I mean? Then you're not coming out ahead in terms of the tiny living journey.
So, okay. Yeah, no, and I hear you. I definitely don't think that this is a lifestyle for a lot of people, because I don't know too many people who could handle. Because I feel like like you said, when it comes to the research and the planning and all that stuff, I feel like you really have to be on top of your stuff, traveling wise, knowing how much, all of these things. You have to be really aware about. So if you are going to get into this, and I thought about this for about 3 seconds, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not that guy. I'm not, let me just go.
The other thing is just to have a plan. If you're only, I know a few people that are only doing the tiny living in a fifth wheel like this while they're saving up to build a home. You know what I mean? So, have a set plan. If you know that, yep, I want kids in 3 years. Well, then go into it knowing hey, I'm only going to be doing this tiny living for 3 years. And then after that, I need to be financially ready to go and have my child and probably go back to a sticks and bricks home. or be financially ready and buy the right rig that when you do have a child, your child can live in the rig with you in a bunkhouse type deal. Because there are a lot of people online that travel full time in an RV that have 2, 3, 4, 5 kids living in it with them.
Oh, goody. So you, thank you so much. You're giving me so much of your time. I have a few more things I'd like to talk about. So the tiny home, Hailey, your actual Instagram account. What was the inspiration for this, right? Because I feel like there's way too many people that are actually living your lifestyle that nobody knows exists. Because when you travel, when you travel on these highways, I see an infinite amount of goddamn RVs, but like you are one of the very few people that are letting the world know this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm doing it. And by the way, those Insta pics are goddamn gorgeous. They're gorgeous. They're just gorgeous. So what was the inspiration? And is there a goal, or are you just sharing your day-to-day?
I guess I just really enjoy sharing our day-to-day, or like a lot of people when they do buy RVs, and even the brand new ones straight out from the manufacturer, don't really feel like a home. And I want to be able to show people that are like thinking about going the tiny home route or are in the tiny home route, but they're like hating it, that you can make it feel like a home. Like all it takes is a little bit of paint, some decor, and obviously like the positivity within yourself. Like if you just genuinely hate it no matter what it looks like, then obviously it's not nice for you. But I just want to show people that like you can really enjoy life with less. Like you don't need to have a 3,000 square foot house filled with a whole bunch of crap that you hardly touch to be happy. So I just
love that.
Life.
I love that because that's where I want to end this conversation, because like I said in the beginning, I really do feel like millennials, at least from my like biased perspective, we are all obsessed with like the actual experience, right? So tell me about the actual experience of traveling. Do you have a favorite state? Do you have a least favorite state? Where do you guys travel most often? Like, what do you consider a vacation? Do you guys actually get to vacation? Like, I want to know all of like the actual experience of living in a tiny home and traveling all the time.
I would say my favorite areas are areas that have a lot of basically anywhere in the West. I mean, there are places in the East. We haven't gone that far with our RV yet. We haven't gone past Chicago, Indiana.
Wait, seriously, you haven't been to New England?
No, and I'm a big Patriots fan, so.
Oh, yo, you're a good human being. I don't know what anyone from Illinois is doing being a Patriots fan, but I like you already. I like you already.
And it annoys my fiance. He's like, "Oh my God, they're cheaters." No, they're not. But anyway, anywhere with like mountains, a lot of hiking, like things to do outside. I like to be outside during the day and going out and exploring, even if it's just walking around the RV park. Like Santa Fe is gorgeous. There's mountains here. You can see them, like just walking around even outside at the RV park, being in the pool, whatever. So I really like that. We've been to Texas a couple times, and this last time we were just in Texas, like not even a month ago. We were in Amarillo, and I loved the park there, but it's just so flat and a whole lot of nothingness. So it's just like not a lot to do in Texas. So I like being places where there's a lot to do.
So it's crazy to me that you say that, right? Because when I think of places with mountains and walking, I don't think of a lot to do. When I think of Texas, I think of mountains and a lot of places to walk to. So do you like being, like, when you say a lot to do, you just mean activities, or do you mean like people, things, clubs, bars, city life?
I'm not a big like city person, and like my best friends like live in cities, like downtown Chicago, downtown Denver, you know what I mean? Like they live in cities. Yes, it's fun to like go out and go to bars and stuff, but I'm not really much of a bar hopper. When I say like things to do, I mean like actual activities to go and do. I mean, obviously I like being in an actual like town at least that like has your basic stores, you know, like I don't want to be in the middle of Bufu unless if I'm really up in the mountain. If I'm in the mountain, then I'm okay with being in the middle of nowhere. But if I'm just like in the middle of a prairie land with nothing but like this tiny little hole in the wall gas station nearby, I'm not gonna love that.
Can you tell? What did you just say? In the middle of Bufu? What was it? Boof.
The like nickname for bumfuck Egypt, like in the middle of nomad.
Yeah, I love that. You coming up with the sayings, Hailey. Yes. Okay. A little bit more about the. I know I said I was almost done, but you pulling so much out of me. I'm sorry. Almost done. I promise. So what I also know about people who travel quite a bit is not only the experiences, but the people that they meet. Right. I don't want to obviously, right, because. Like I'm obsessed. Like I love talking. I have people on the show. Like this is what I have. Like I enjoy doing. Right. Like, is there an actual Southern hospitality? Is there a West Coast chill vibe? Is there an East Coast asshole vibe? Like, are those things real? Do you feel the culture? Is there actual difference?
No, there totally is. And like obviously I grew up in Chicago and people are like, oh, people in like the Midwest and East, they're like snobby. And I don't think I'm snobby. I just judging myself. I don't think I'm snobby. Someone else might think so. I have no idea. But when we're in the West, people are so laid back and just like chill, go with the flow. Like they'll approach you at your campsite and be like, what's going on? Like, where you from? They talk to you. In Texas, they're all like sweet and simple. When we stayed at a park out east, like people don't even want to like talk to you. Or, like you're walking around and you're like, hi, and they'll like nod. And then like, you like want to approach them for a conversation, but they give you the shitty nod. And so it's like, okay, we're just going to keep walking. You know what I mean? So like, it's a thing. Obviously there's good and bad people no matter where you go. Of course. But I feel like RVers in general, like the tiny homers, they're pretty approachable and they like you to talk to them because they're also on the road away from their families most of the time. You know what I mean? So they are like, okay, let's like meet some people, meet some friends. And we've met quite a few other people that are young like we are doing the full-time RVing lifestyle. And it's cool to just see their journeys and where they're off to now because we've connected online after meeting at the parks. And it's neat. I really enjoy it a lot.
Cool beans. Before I let you go, because you're in an RV, in my head, when these big news load up on the internet, where everyone's going to storm Area 51, did you even think about it? Did you think about it?
I didn't think about doing it, but I sent like quite a few memes to my fiance that I thought were like pretty funny about it. But no, we didn't think about going just because he's all like, for a little period of time, he thought about leaving his traveling job and then actually started like the police academy but injured his knee and wound up back with like his traveling job anyway, long story short. But he's all like, no, that's a federal offense, all those idiots are gonna go there. So he's like the real technical one of like, yeah, we think the memes are funny. He's like, well, those people are blooming idiots if they think they're actually gonna go there.
I don't. I'm on his side. I think your husband and I would get along quite a bit. I like the way he thinks, and yeah, don't do anything stupid. I think people out there don't storm no federal companies, organization, situation, whatever. So everyone knows, like I told you, Tiny Home Hailey's where you can find her on the Instagram. Please go check out. You guys, I'm telling you, I swear to you. So obviously, her Insta is going to be on the screen the entire time. If you're listening to the podcast version, you're amazing. But you got to go check this out. When you flip through those pictures, until you see the outside of the RV, you would think that this is one of them homes and like, what's it called? What's the TV channel? Not Lifetime, the TV channel. Yeah, you would think it's HGT. I mean, it is phenomenal. It is Pinterest picture perfect. I love it. And that's the reason I had it on. And then just to add just a final touch to the cherry on top of the pie, is that the reason I'm having this conversation with her is because I messaged her via Instagram. So that's where you can find her. And I promise you, if you do message her, she will respond because that's the kind of lady Hailey is, right? Hailey, anything else you would like to mention? Any other places that you would like to plug? Anything else before we say goodbye?
For those that are wishing that they could be tiny homers, or they've been thinking about it, or even just have questions about it, my biggest thing is just like, why not? Like, what is holding you back? Because there are so many different facets in terms of like an income that you can do from on the road. So what would be your reason to hold you back. That's always what I tell people. Just really think about what's important to you, and like, why wait till you're retired and 60 when you could live your life now?
That's right. You see, Hailey, ladies and gentlemen, she says, live your goddamn best life, right? Why the hell not? Why the hell not? Hailey, thank you so much. Don't go yet. So I'm just going to stop recording here.